Right, you're joining me and Dr. Keith Seitz, and today we're going to talk nut bait. What can you tell me about the new nut one that we've been working on then, Keith?
Well, we've chosen the right weather to talk about nuts because
-4?
Yeah, it's -4, and my nuts certainly feel more like walnuts, all shriveled up and inactive. Don't say any more than that. I know.
Enough said.
Enough said. Yeah. Well, Steve, I guess it's my glasses are steaming up, so I'll just take them off. It's so warm out here.
We might get lucky with a tea in a minute.
If he pulls his finger out, he's good at putting fingers up, but getting them out is a different thing.
Nut bait.
Nut bait, yeah. So it would be so easy to just become another Me Too bait, following the lines one thing. You guys did have quite a successful nut bait.
We've had a few over the years.
Joined and I've sort of come and gone and one thing and another, and quite a lot of the guys wanted a nutty base bait for the winter. So we started with, like I do with a lot of bait now, is segmenting it all off rather than just say, well, that's the base mix and we're just firing, a nut flavour. So went to our flavour house, which we use, where we develop things like seafood and so on and so forth. And with flavours and attractors is something that I've learnt since the 70s, but my old mates, particularly Gary Bays, and probably the master of them all was the late Rod Hutchinson. They use blends, and blends seem to be, there are exceptions to the rule, but blends of flavours tend to be better. That's something we found. So rather than just use a simple nut, we wanted to.
It's not off the shelf type stuff either.
Oh no. This is again rather like the seafood blend. It's something that I've sat down with the chemist, my friends, and we've taken various extracts that we know Carp like, and to use that word, blended them together.
Sure.
So historically, I'd been messing around with a chocolate bait for quite a few years. And it had been very, very successful. An old mate of mine, Gary Bond, who's been around since the dinosaur sort of thing, he absolutely rinsed Taplow, caught the late record a number of times, top rodding it for 2 years. Nobody could get anywhere near him. And so that was an element that I as you know, I was quite keen just bringing a chocolate bait out. But because of the call for a nut bait, I wanted to.
I suppose we were sort of limited to try and keep 4 core ranges within our sort of brand, if you like. And that's why you were very keen to incorporate some of the chocolate with what we were sort of looking for, which is obviously the nut, or a blend of, the combination of those factors.
So I looked at it, as I say, we could have just brought out a chocolate bait, which, I know there was, there were some of the guys were very keen to use it.
100%. Based on those sorts of results you're going to be.
And some of the team obviously know Gary, and they've used it themselves as well. So there was that sort of confidence in the background, but also we had that call for a nut. And then I wanted something to round it off. So when you actually smell the aromas, you'll pick up the various elements. So there's a wonderful, there is that background note of chocolate, and there's that little element of cream. That goes together, and then the nut. And the nut was very specific. It was based on a nut that we know is successful in carp fishing, quite low key in fact, but you can pick that and in the taste profile later on you can taste those elements. So initially the first lot we did with that wasn't quite right. We tweaked it again, and then it comes down to the levels, and we're pretty happy where we are.
100%.
From that perspective. And then we wanted to look at the moving on, which goes side by side with the flavours, we wanted to look at the taste profile. And taste to me is very, very important, not just psychologically to the angler, but I think it's very important perspective to the fish. So
more importantly,
we went back to the dark ages when you just reminded me that you weren't even born, which is frightening.
The 70s.
Yeah. So I discovered a product that when I started Cotswold Baits in the early 80s, it was a standalone product that we used, and then I also had a milk-based sweetener.
Sure.
Which I know the first time I showed you the liquid, you were all going,
wow.
Can we use it? Can we use it? And where do we put it? Standing it alongside Beetlin and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So what we've done is, again, going back to our good old chemists, my mates, we replicated this old, I say old, but old school liquid and the powder. They may be at some stage sold as standalones in the future, but
I would certainly like that if possible. But like you said,
historically they historically very, very successful additives.
Yeah, just on their own without the blending process. Yeah.
So we've utilised those technology, brought it all up together, put those in. So we've got this lovely sweetness, this sort of milky. Palatant without saying too much more, and that just rounds off the whole profile of the bait.
Yeah.
So that sort of latched on. It's got a bit of beetle in. We know the effects of beetle in. You'll never change it. All of the baits have got beetle in. Even seafood's got beetle in.
Our most proven product.
And we know why.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Don't if it's not broken, don't change it, sort of thing. Carp like it. They've been liking it since I developed it for Hinders, God knows how many years ago. I even forget.
Several decades.
Yeah, several decades. And then, so we come to the actual matrix of the bait.
Yeah.
And we wanted something that was both easily digestible, easily digested mechanically. In other words, they could chew it up quite easily.
Keeping within obviously the stabilised route.
Yep. So nice softish bait.
Softer in general.
With a few milk powders in there to give it a degree of solubility, quicker release. Perfect. It's a perfect all year round bait, but it's for anybody who has still got this dilemma about using seafood in the winter.
It's a mindset thing.
It is a mindset.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember that fish meal baits today are totally different to the old days
when
where
they first started.
Really laced heavily with fish oils and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a number of micronized nuts in there. It also gives us
so
nice
it's not just one nut. You're talking liquid flavours, extracts, powders, the works.
The whole works.
Yeah.
So it's micronized. That gives you a degree of texture, which helps. When I'm giving it a good old chew up with the pharangeals, and then a digestion, internal digestion. So it's easily digestible. Our own blend of seeds, which again, we mill down in house. I put Luke through the pressures because I wanted to get that.
Absolutely. Well, it's not just one. It's several blending processes, isn't it, to combine? So you've got the ultra fine, flowery type texture. So you've got the minutest, smallest seeds possible, as well as that coarse texture as well.
And we just wanted that, and it's getting the coarseness right for rolling perspective and holding it together. And
it's got to work across the whole spectrum.
So we've got a lovely blend of seeds. There's some oily sort of seeds in there, which is perfect for lipid content and a little bit of plumage around the bait and so on and so forth. And overall, I mean, considering how short a period of time the initial bait went out, we're tweaking it. We've got we're hoping the final tweak this week.
Yeah.
Before we say right, we're there. But I mean, it's doing a lot of 30s, and I think
an awful lot. I think
one guy went out and had a 4-seat, first time using it. Was
yeah,
it?
yeah, no, it was. Yeah, a couple of 30s straight away.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very instant.
Yeah.
But like I said, based on some of those sort of core ingredients and their track records anyway, obviously the blending process, putting it all together, we were looking for that instant success and got it straight away. So.
Well, again, we come back to that. That's why seafood appears to be, and it is, but it appears to be very instant.
Yeah.
But it has a long life.
That's
the
not
other
something
thing.
that's going to blow, is it?
No.
And
this is what
from
we've
the instant
done.
to the sort of campaign anglers, 100%.
Yeah. And that's what you want. I mean, and that comes back to these solubility factors and things like that.
Yeah.
So that you've got it. And well, I think we're all very, very pleased. I mean,
I think a lot of the sort of instant success is possibly based on the sort of stabilised process as well.
Yeah.
Making it, that instant attraction, so it's not encapsulating any of the flavours or the attractors within the boil itself, because it is so much softer. Those flavours.
Yeah, boiling's been kept down to an absolute minimum, so there's no denaturing of the milks that we've got in there.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, with soft baits, people say to me, they're a bit too soft, or whatever. 90% of people use spons.
Yeah.
There are too many people. Well, no, I'm not going to get involved in the bait boat thing, but every other angler seems to have a bait boat, so there's no.
Yeah.
The whole reason, going back donkey's years, while we looked at making soft baits and paste baits were incredibly instant. And that is because of this solubility factor.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're getting bites, the big fish will come along anyway. So
You're sort of stirring up all that interest,
Yeah.
bringing them in. Obviously, the younger juvenile fish tend to sort of get in there first, have a good route round.
have a good rat, and and the old boys are looking back, and of course then it's like Rod always said to me. He said the big ones, boys or girls, they're the pigs, and they're greedy, and they want to. But a lot of them will
big for a reason.
Yeah, a lot of these wise old fish, they'll just sit back and watch. But and we found that with seafood. That again, I know I'm using a parallel, but in the summer months, that it was picking off some fish that had not been off the radar for a little while.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But no, I'm really pleased with the nut bait. I am using it myself, and it's always good to be able to almost reincarnate products that we used in the 80s and 90s that were so successful.
Yeah.
And that, to me, says a lot. And we're very, very lucky that we have my friends now, awesome flavour house, and they can do tweaks very quickly before we need, we arrive at the final thing. And of course, one of the chemists is a carp angler as well.
Always helps. He knows.
Always helps me. We can talk the science, and at the same time, because he's a carp angler, he knows where I'm.
He's got a better understanding.
Yeah,
no, 100%.
And it's great. So we can work on a lot of things like that. Once the bait's finished, we've got all the bolt-ons are basically in the corridors.
Yes.
Couple of things again that we just want to tweak, so there'll be obviously the bolt-on hook baits.
Pop-ups and wafters, plugs, possibly some syrups. Sort of stick mix as well. What you'd expect,
and
I suppose.
Encompassing all of the flavours that or the blender flavours that we've used. And as I say, some of them may even be possibly available for standalones that people want to incorporate in their own
100%.
specials. So
I think I'll be taking some of the extracts and incorporating that into the match fishing as well. 100%.
Well, we know how successful. I told you about these products, Steve, and we know historically again how the impact on the continent, rather than the UK initially, was immense. Particularly in Belgium, we didn't know what they were doing with the damn stuff.
No.
We were sending drums of the liquid over, and I'm thinking, hang on, so
what's going on?
Yeah, so if it's good, it's good in all departments. But But I don't know about your nuts, but my nuts are beginning to shrivel up even more, you know.
You could probably see me shivering here and sort of trying to...
Sat here, you know, sat here in this, my lovely jacket that's supposed to go down to -20. Well, that might be all right for young servicemen and all the rest of it, you know.
I think that's time for a tea then, maybe.
I think it is, but it's always good to sit down and try, you know, we are going to readdress, you know,
there's going to be more
videos
and stuff moving forward anyway, isn't there?
So if people want to know any more about the bait, we're going to show more in-depth aspects.
We'll do some clips. Focus on individual products, so we can actually, you know, get all of those questions answered in the sort of tailored.
Yeah, I think summing it up though, the bait to me, which so many people have said, they phoned me up and said we can't stop eating them, and you think, right, well, if they're eating them, then that's good enough for me, you know. And I know like A Guy and Ryan Boyd and Chris and you know, Andy T,
Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, you know, there's when are we, you know, and then we excited them by saying we're bringing some of the old 80s and 90s products in, and just because they were used then, there's no, you know, don't forget old is new and good.
100%.
You know. Look at Marmite.
A lot of these things go full circle as well.
Yeah, they do. We forget, and we you know, we forget about.
So we're combining old with new, up-to-date blends.
Yeah.
You know,
everything's. The other thing I want to point out is, you know, all of the flavours that we use are bespoke, human grade, licensed to be used in loose feed bait as well as hook baits. So, you know, totally
following
safe
the book.
Fish. Yeah, absolutely perfect. But right, the nuts have dropped and
the nut bait is ready.
Ready, yeah. Enjoy.